Hi everyone, this is Nishtha from Nish Online Interior Design, Paint Color Consultation and Home Decor Content Writing. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic which is not so common and yet so important. Well, there have been a ton of times when homeowners have inquired about choosing a particular paint color for a particular compass direction. So most of the homeowners have come up to me and they've regularly talked about how a certain room can come off quite cool, calm and crisp during the day. Maybe it's warmer in the morning and cooler in the evenings, or maybe it's cooler in the mornings and warmer in the evenings. Well, it all depends on the compass directions, because let's face it, compass directions and paint colors are directly proportional to each other. And when you plan to choose a paint color for your home, compass directions are one of the most important factors out there. So if you've been one of my color consultation clients in the past, you must have seen that I generally share a design questionnaire with you where I often ask about the different compass directions of the different spaces of your home. Well, today I'm going to be talking about one such important compass direction. Well, yes, 12 best Sherwin-Williams paint colors for east-facing rooms. Well, east-facing rooms can be quite tricky to deal with. Well, unlike north and south where you have direct exposure throughout the day or no exposure, well, east and west facing rooms generally receive considerable sunlight most of the times of the day. So let's say for the east facing rooms, you're bound to feel slightly warmer earlier in the morning when the sun rises, but as the sun sets, let's say 12 p.m. onwards, it starts to get grayed out. Meanwhile, let's not forget shadows. So especially in the early mornings, you're quite likely to experience some passive warmth in the morning hours. So somewhere around 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. you can see a slight shift of the sun towards the west, whereas in the east facing rooms at this particular time around noon, you're quite likely to see some light, but again not a lot of grayed out experience. Meanwhile, later in the afternoon, well, let's say somewhere around 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. it is mostly grayed out, and at the same time you can experience tons and tons of shadows which can be post 12 p.m. Now, another important aspect to consider in your east facing rooms is the absolute potential of the light to wash off the undertones. So basically you have to choose a paint color for your east facing room that does not wash off easily, and that is why you need paint colors that have considerable depth to them. So now you see, east facing rooms are definitely quite tricky to deal with. They're not as easy as north and south facing rooms, because you have to deal with three different situations. You have to deal with the early morning incoming warmth, the noon's brightness, and the grayed out evenings. So what are the best possible colors for your east facing rooms that do not look overly warm in the morning as well as overly cold in the evening, and at the same time they can retain their undertones in the noon's brightness? So before I disclose my list of 12 best Sherwin-Williams paint colors for east facing rooms, I'm going to first talk about some nitties and gritties. So in general, for your east facing rooms, you can choose both warmer colors as well as cooler colors, but you have to be very mindful about the undertones, the depth, the amount of gray that they have in them. So when talking about warmer colors, the warm tone paint colors will look quite enhanced in the morning with subtle incoming warm natural light. You must pick a paint color with slightly more color and less gray so it can hold the undertone in the afternoon and evening's gray incoming light. Meanwhile, you must avoid neutral colors that have more gray in them. Choosing warmer hues with more color will also hold the depth and undertone and overcome the shadows and dirty appeal in the late afternoon and evenings. While talking about the cooler colors and the cool tone paint colors, they can come off quite icy cool and crisp in the later afternoon and evening hours. Hence, it's ideal to supplement the palette with warmer hues and textures on the furniture and furnishings. In the mornings, cooler colors can look quite clean and refreshing. Ideally, choose blue paint colors with a green or yellow undertone that can look soft in the mornings and can balance off the undertones in the late afternoons and evenings without appearing overly cold. Now, another important aspect that you really need to consider is what time are you actually planning to use the east facing room. So, is your living room an east facing room or a bedroom? So, basically let's say if you intend to use that paint color majorly in the mornings, then you can really experiment with, let's say, a cooler tone paint color as well. Now, if you intend to use your east facing rooms majorly in the evenings, then you must choose a warmer tone paint color, since that will equally make your room feel warm, cozy and comfortable in the evening when you intend to use that space. Now, another tip and trick that I would like to offer here is that you must avoid paint colors that have a super bright appeal or a very high LRV. LRV meaning light reflectance value. So, let's say if you intend to choose a white paint color which has an LRV, let's say over 80, it can come off quite bright and clean, and at the same time it might cause a sense of glare in the room. So you must choose an off-white or a white paint color that has considerable depth to it, meanwhile avoiding a very cool and crisp gray undertone. But let's say if you intend to choose that east facing room throughout the day, then in that case you must supplement your room with artificial lighting. That means you must add warm white lighting to your chandelier, your table lamps, your ceiling lights, your wall sconces, the best way to make your space feel more warm, welcoming and cozy throughout the day. So now that I've talked about various aspects, tips and tricks of choosing a paint color for your east facing room, let's get started with my list of 12 best Sherwin-Williams paint colors for your east facing rooms. And the first paint color on my list is Sherwin-Williams Accessible Beige. Sherwin-Williams Accessible Beige is a warm greige neutral paint color with more beige than gray to it. With an LRV of 58, this Sherwin-Williams paint color can withstand the depth and undertone without looking washed off in the later afternoon or early evenings. Meanwhile, expect Sherwin-Williams Accessible Beige to appear soft and not overly glowy in the early mornings as well. Isn't that so blissful? So if you really want to make your space feel cozy, calm, comfortable and don't want to choose a beige color that can outcase an overly orange undertone or a golden appeal, then Sherwin-Williams Accessible Beige can work wonderfully in the morning as well as evening hours. We know that even morning light isn't too bright or too golden, yellow, warm. So at the same time, this color can perfectly feel neutral in the early morning hours as well as when it's grayed out in the evenings. You can still expect the color to add a cozy vibe to your space. Meanwhile, in the noon time, when the colors generally get washed off, you will still see the depth and undertones of this paint color. So definitely a must. You can check out my latest pre-packaged Sherwin-Williams Accessible Beige color palette for the whole house here on Etsy as well as my website. I have added the link of my website as well as my Etsy shop in the description box below. Now the next color on my list is Sherwin-Williams Alabaster. Now you must be wondering that I warned you about choosing a higher LRV for your east facing room. Well, Sherwin-Williams Alabaster is a creamy off-white paint color which has an LRV of 82. Which means that it's super light, super bright, but at the same time, if you have a smaller east facing room to deal with, which receives very less incoming natural light, or let's say your east facing room has very little windows or it has a shaded patio outside, then Alabaster can truly brighten up the space and brighten up the dull corners and make your space feel more lively, enhanced and bright. Now, Alabaster is a creamy off-white color that has the slightest touch of warmth without a dominant yellow undertone. This popular Sherwin-Williams paint color has an LRV of 82 and can brighten up your dull corners and make your east-facing room soft, warm and welcoming all day long. In the mornings, you must expect this off-white color to look soft, soothing, warm and not overly glowy or yellow. You can check out my latest pre-packaged Alabaster color palette for the whole house here on Etsy as well as my website. Now the next color on my list is Sherwin-Williams Kilim Beige. Sherwin-Williams Kilim Beige is a warm beige neutral paint color with a notable orange undertone. Yes, this neutral color for an east-facing room has considerable depth and undertone to withstand the shadows in the noon and early evening durations. With an LRV of 57, this color also wouldn't wash off the undertones. So especially if you have an American Southwestern interior design style or if you have a Tuscan style home, then Sherwin-Williams Kilim Beige can truly play a wonderful role. This color can be used in your east-facing rooms, especially in the mornings. It can outcase a beautiful orange to yellow-orange base, which can make your space look much more warm and welcoming without overly warming up the space. Now you can check out my latest pre-packaged Sherwin-Williams Kilim Beige color palette for the whole house here on Etsy as well as my website. Now the next color on my list is Sherwin-Williams Neutral Ground. Sherwin-Williams Neutral Ground is a dark, warm off-white paint color with notable khaki and beige undertones. When paired against a clean white paint color, this warm neutral may show off a yellow undertone. Moreover, this color has an LRV of 70, which means that it can hold its depth pretty well all day long. Especially if you use your east-facing room in the evening durations, this paint color can truly play a blissful role. In the early mornings, this color may not look very overly warm or yellow because of the passive warmth of incoming natural light. This color can still appear glowy, warm, cozy, and later in the evening hours, you must expect neutral ground to balance off with the incoming cool light and hence coming off as a soft warm white paint color. Meanwhile, this color has way more depth than Alabaster, which means that it can hold itself pretty well in the noon hours as well, and it does not have the tendency to wash off the undertones. You can check out my latest pre-packaged Sherwin-Williams Neutral Ground color palette for the whole house here on Etsy as well as my website. Now the next color on my list is Sherwin-Williams Agreable Gray. Well, Sherwin-Williams Agreable Gray is a perfect blend of beige and grey, which means it's a true greige paint color. This paint color is quite timeless, quite versatile, popular, one of the best-selling paint colors by Sherwin-Williams. It is definitely a timeless and classic neutral greige color with a perfect blend of beige and grey, which isn't too cool or too warm. In the mornings, Sherwin-Williams Agreeable Gray can appear slightly warm, and as the day passes, it can prove to be a perfect neutral. With an LRV of 60, this timeless neutral wouldn't look too dark or light. You can check out my latest pre-packaged Sherwin-Williams Agreeable Gray color palette for the whole house here on Etsy as well as my website. Now that we've talked about various warmer paint colors to go in your east-facing rooms, let's get started with some of my top picks of cooler paint colors for your east-facing rooms. And the first color on my list is Sherwin-Williams Rainwashed. Now, Sherwin-Williams Rainwashed is not an icy cool green paint color or a blue paint color. Sherwin-Williams Rainwashed is definitely a blend of blue and green, which can make a beautiful appeal in your east-facing rooms. The blend of green, blue and grey with a sufficient amount of color and chroma, this color can hold itself pretty well in all lighting conditions. It can appear slightly warm and soft in the mornings, and as the day passes, it can hold itself pretty well. Meanwhile, it also wouldn't look too flat or dull in the later evening hours. Since this color has an LRV of 59, it wouldn't even wash off its undertone with excessive incoming natural light. You can check out my latest pre-packaged Sherwin-Williams Rainwash color palette for the whole house here on Etsy as well as my website. Now the next color on my list is Sherwin-Williams Clar Sage. Well, Sherwin-Williams Clar Sage is definitely a green-grey paint color with a warm yellow undertone to it. So it's definitely one of the most beautiful sage green paint colors out there, and if you're really looking to use a sage green paint color for your east-facing room, then Clar Sage is definitely something to have an eye on. This warm green paint color shares synonyms with organic and earthy and can appear cozy and beautiful as the sun sets. Even with the incoming cool natural light in the late afternoon and evenings, this color will come off as warm and welcoming. In the morning, you can expect Clar Sage to appear slightly glowy. And since this color has an LRV of 41, it definitely is a medium toned green-yellow paint color that can retain the undertone and chroma to it. You can check out my latest pre-packaged Sherwin-Williams Clar Sage color palette for the whole house here on Etsy as well as my website. Now the next color on my list is Sherwin-Williams Moody Blue. Well, you must have seen that I haven't picked very icy, cool paint colors out there, whether it's a green, blue green or a green paint color. All of these paint colors have the slightest touch of warmth to them, so they can even work beautifully in the evenings of your east facing rooms. Now Sherwin-Williams Moody Blue is one such classic blue-grey paint color which has a teeny tiny wing of green undertone to it, which makes this blue paint color slightly warmer. With a green and grey undertone, this mid-tone rich neutral can be used as an accent on the walls, bathroom vanity, kitchen or even your laundry cabinets. With an LRV of 27, you can use this medium toned color only as an accent in smaller or medium sized rooms. In larger rooms, you can use this color on the walls as well. So definitely a great recommendation for your east facing rooms. So now that we've discussed various off-whites, we have discussed beiges, greys, we have also talked about blue greens, blue greys, green yellow paint colors. Now let's say if you want to choose a grey paint color for your east facing room, there are still quite a few recommendations that I would like to offer. And one of the best grey paint colors for an east facing room can be Sherwin-Williams Crushed Ice. Now if you're really fond of the greys, you can definitely try the calm and minimalist Sherwin-Williams Crushed Ice paint color in the east facing rooms. This off-white paint color with a grey undertone has a touch of brown to prevent it from looking too icy cool. Moreover, this beautiful neutral paint color can be easily paired with the wide variety of hardware, flooring and other finishes. With an LRV of 66, this color can also hold the undertone without looking too washed off. You can check out my latest pre-packaged Sherwin-Williams Crushed Ice color palette for the whole house here on Etsy as well as my website. So if you're looking for grey paint colors for your east facing room, then Crushed Ice can make a beautiful appeal. You can even try something like Sherwin-Williams Drift of Mist, or you may even try something like Sherwin-Williams On the Rocks. Now the next color and the last color on my list is Sherwin-Williams Shoji White. Now Sherwin-Williams Shoji White is a beautiful darker off-white paint color which has a blend of cream as well as greige to it. So this color is actually a chameleon. It can appear cream at certain time of the day and can also prove to be a super light and bright greige paint color under certain lighting conditions. This color wouldn't showcase the yellow undertones, especially in your east facing rooms. It can come off quite creamy, warm and welcoming. With an LRV of 74, this color will look warm in the early morning hours, whereas balanced with the incoming cool light during the late afternoon hours. So if you're not fond of the brightness of alabaster or too much yellow or khaki in neutral ground, then Shoji White can equally play a blissful role. So what are your thoughts on my list of best Sherwin-Williams paint colors for your east facing rooms? Well, we know that east facing rooms are quite tricky. You have to be very particular about the paint colors, and you must also samplize them or sample them before actually purchasing the paint buckets and using them in your home. Because let me tell you, these paint colors are quite deceiving and they can appear slightly different in different lighting conditions. So don't forget to sample them. Observe them for a day or two in different lighting conditions, in different times of the day of your east facing rooms, and then finalize a paint color. I would love to know your thoughts on these above mentioned paint colors, and if you have any questions, you can always drop me a comment below and I will definitely reach out to you. I'll see you all next Monday for the next compass direction to discuss about. Until then, bye.